really, really need something, you can't have it, or you have to try and find the money. Whereas once you've got far too many, then they keep loading you up with symbols. And I have to say, I have one of the world's great symbol collections now, and I love every one of them.
So you don't have one particular symbol that you...
Oh yes, no, there's 5 symbols I use and another 256 that I look at and think, there might be something that could be just right at some point. But it's been a very long time. I mean, it really is sort of getting on for nearly 50 years that I've used these symbols, and I have to say, I recommend them highly.
Also the same with DW. I was at the factory maybe last year, and John Good had lots of pieces of wood on the... John Good is the drum maker for DW, for those that don't know him. Lots of pieces on his table, and said, look at this. And this was the Creation, which is a limited edition Dark Side of the Moon DW snare drum. So again, what's your association? How long have you been with DW? And
well, in fact, I've been through 2 or 3 different drum companies over many years. In fact, I started playing Premier originally because they were the ultimate English drum at the time. I mean, Keith Moon was playing Premier, so that seemed a sensible thing. But then, what happened was I saw Ginger Baker. Ginger has been an appalling influence on my life. Anyone here seen Beware of Mr. Baker? Yes. It's all true. Did anyone see him at the Roundhouse at the Jack Bruce tribute?
yes.
He managed one song before he lost his temper and stormed off. I was really, I just thought that's what I paid to go and see, really. But then Ginger was playing Ludwig, and so I eventually ended up playing Ludwig for a long time. It was a very happy time. Bill Ludwig was a wonderful character, and it was the 3rd generation of a family making drums. But then Ludwig was really defeated by the economics of making drums in Chicago rather than the Far East. And so I was casting around and found DW. And DW really are an extraordinary company because they just don't make bad drums. Everything they do is beautiful and very carefully thought out. And John treats the shells, he actually selects which shells will work together in the best possible way. And then on top of that, the thing that I particularly like is all the special artwork. And in fact, I ended up commissioning at least 2 sets that were really done more for the artwork than because I needed yet another drum kit.
Yeah, I mean, so you can get a chance to see this. I think this is a limited edition, and I think it's on the Foots stand downstairs, so you can get a chance to look at it afterwards. But you're right, the artwork and the passion that's gone into this snare drum. It's actually for sale. This isn't a sales pitch. If you sell it while it's here, it's 25% commission, but anyway, it is for sale here. But seriously, take a look at this snare drum, because it's something special, isn't it?
It is, and what DW did was they made 4 or 5 of these for marking different bands. So there's a Queen snare drum, and I know there's a Rush and Neil Peart. Is it just the 3?
Yeah, there was another one, but we're not allowed to mention it, and it hasn't come out yet.
Oh.
So, but there was 3 of them, yes, at the moment. So, have we any more questions? I can see hands. So, Robert dropped off to sleep. I'm sorry.
I was looking forward to that.
Considering that Floyd probably won't tour again, what's your opinion of the very successful tribute bands that are out there?
Well, I have a slight problem with tribute bands. I mean, I wouldn't, and it's something that we've talked about a lot. My only problem with them is that I've always believed that the whole business of rock music and playing in a band and so on is about doing your own thing rather than doing someone else's. And the trouble with tribute bands is some of them are so good they can recreate every mistake I've ever made. I find that sort of slightly disturbing. And what I really like are the bands that reinterpret what we've done. So Dark Side of the Moon, if you're familiar with that, or even Luther Right and the Wrongs, who did an entire country and western album based on The Wall. Yes, why in the world out there? I have to say both the Australian Pink Floyd and the Brit Floyd, they are incredibly good. And I did sort of enjoy this thing that the Australian Pink Floyd split because they had some sort of musical differences. You'd have thought that's...
Is there anyone at the back that's got a question that we haven't got to? There's someone I can see. Let's go towards the back, if possible.
Hey, what was the most frustrating album for you to record?
Well, the most frustrating by far was the one that was never released, which is referred to as the Household Objects. And it was an album that was started. It was the one to follow Dark Side of the Moon, and we really went into the studios too soon after Dark Side. It would have been great if actually we'd done a lot more touring and perhaps even filmed the show, because it's something we're really short of is movie footage of what we did in the 70s. What we did was we spent an awful lot of time working on how to make noises without actually having any music to put it to. So that was by far the most frustrating. I mean, over the years, each album has taken longer and longer to make, but I think that's quite often because the technology has improved to the point where it gives you too many choices. Even if you're recording at home now, you just can do endless versions of every single instrument that you're tracking. When we recorded the first album, it was 4-track, which meant you had to make a decision on the levels and the echoes and everything else on the bass, drums and maybe the rhythm guitar before you could move on. Once you'd done it, it was set in stone because you bump it from the 4-track, maybe onto 2-track and then back onto the 4-track. But because you didn't want to lose quality by bumping too often, you'd only do that once are you following what I'm saying here? But in a world before the hard drive, it was all done on strips of tape, and if you only had the 4 tracks, you could afford to copy it, mix it down, and then put more tracks on top of that. But you only had 3 or 4 tracks to play with before you'd start losing quality.
We've got time for a couple of more questions, so anyone else maybe? Okay. I don't think there's anyone out there, Nick. I don't think there's anyone out there. We can see those white lights.
Well, what else can we sell?
I've got a question.
Sell Mike.
So first of all, I want to say a sincere thank you, because seeing you on TV 20 years ago was the first thing that inspired me to play drums. So I'm sure I speak for a lot of people there, so thank you. And that leads on to my question, who first inspired you to start playing?
Well, I think, of course, I have to say Ginger, but he probably didn't get me started, but he certainly switched me from thinking it was just a bit of fun into thinking that's where I would like to be. And I think it was that whole business of suddenly seeing there was an opportunity to be a drummer in a band, and you didn't necessarily have to be on a sort of raised platform behind the band staring at these other people leering at the audience in front of you, and you could actually be part of the music rather than behind it all.
It's funny because we were going to get Ginger along today to do it on the stage, but you can imagine how that would have gone, so we decided not to.
Well, I think we could have just put up a boxing ring and just sort of No, I have to say he's always been charming to me, but maybe that's because I always sort of lie down on the floor and abase myself in front of him.
Which artists excite you now? New artists?
I think I'm sort of impressed by almost anyone who's prepared to still go out there and try and make a living doing this. I've worked with a number of young bands through the Roundhouse in Chalk Farm, and people say, "Oh, well, what's happened to music? It's not like it was in the old days," and they're wrong in a way, because I think almost the new breed of artists, and I'm thinking of people like Ed Sheeran, they have to be entrepreneurs as well as musicians. In our day, we used to sneer at the suits and say, "Oh no, don't bother us with the business. We're artists." Most of those artists tend to be sort of living under the railway arches if they don't take an interest in the business itself.
That's why Ed Sheeran got his £1 on that night. So, anybody in the audience go to any of the Ed Sheeran concerts at Wembley? Nobody. Okay, they had a drummer. Anyone know who the drummer was that played at the Ed Sheeran concert at Wembley? Nobody. Do you want to tell them, Nick?
That's Nick.
It was Nick.
What?
Yes.
Why didn't you tell us?
Why didn't he tell you?
No. I did the Olympics, not the O2.
Ah, okay. Because I saw an announcement that you were going to make an appearance with him. Or did you get that call?
No. Well, okay. Maybe my memory has gone completely, and actually I did 7 nights at the O2. A small ginger-headed man, but actually I know that's not the case.
Have we got another question in the audience before we wrap it up for today? So one at the back.
Your best advice for somebody who's just starting out now?